Hello, welcome to Universities UK Innovation and Growth webcast. My name's Greg Wade.
And I'm Kevin Richardson, Higher Education Funding Council for England.
Welcome, Kevin. We're just going to do a short preview for the Growth Programme Board agenda of the 19th of March and run through what the topics are, our views, and what perhaps they've missed out.
Yeah.
Firstly, I would say, our representative for the university sector is Professor Julian Crampton, and he'll be there at the meeting supported by colleagues from Universities UK.
Good.
So we have a route in there to raise issues of concern, to contribute to discussions and debate, and we're certainly developing that role working with you. In terms of topics, the most important one at the moment is the launch of the calls on the 23rd of March. What do you think of that paper?
I think what the departments are trying to do, and I think we need to reflect they are in detailed negotiations on the fine print of the programme, and it's difficult for them to circulate a different draft of the operational programme every week. What they're trying to do is to give a flavour of what the main changes are as the negotiations have continued. And I think what they're trying to argue, there's sufficient agreement in principle for much of the programme that the calls can begin, albeit the calls will be in principle subject to potential changes. And I think one of the important missions in the calls process is that there's no real clarity yet on the quantum of outputs and how the outputs are allocated down to local areas. But I think there's two ways to view this. One is, should the government have waited until the ink was dry? But in reality, that would have been meant after the summer break. So I think, more positively, I think it is actually sensible for the programme to be opened in principle, albeit that some of the details still needs to wash through over the course of the next few weeks. And I think the government do seem pretty clear now. They've got a date, and when government departments do that, that normally means it's going to happen. So all being well, the calls will be launched, I think, on the 23rd of March, well before PERDA. So excellent. On balance, probably the right thing to do.
Technical assistance is also one of the main agenda items with a paper to support it, and it's of great interest to universities in terms of identifying local areas for collaboration and support with their lab that need technical assistance support, but also there are lots of national stakeholders that are interested in national level support via technical assistance. What are your views on that paper?
Well, I think the positive thing is that the ministerial commitment to make available up to 50% of the technical assistance to local partners has been carried through. And I think that reflects two things. One is that the burdens and the workload of the managing authorities, which are quite considerable, but also the fact that a good deal of development work and capacity building needs to happen at the local level. So I think broadly it's a good balance, and the commitment is being carried through. I think what universities need to do now, if they haven't already done so, because this will trigger the calls process, is to reach an understanding of how best to make use of the technical assistance at your local level. Now, that may be with other universities on a sectoral basis, or maybe with the different partners under sort of a LEP banner. I think that's for the local partners to determine. I think two things. One is, my message would be realistic, and by that I mean find the right solution. The obvious temptation is for each institution to ask for some cash. That may or may not be the right approach. So be realistic, but most importantly, technical assistance can only fund certain things. Right? It's not an empty, a flexible pot of cash. So look at the regulations. Look at the call. It will identify what it can pay for and what it can't pay for. So be clear. So I think it's positive. That's better to be made available. Is there technical assistance requirements at the local level? Almost certainly yes. And it's how best to structure that. And if the university colleagues out in the local areas have not reached a firm agreement or understanding between themselves and with other partners, now's the time to do so.
And a lot of universities will have already supported their local LEPs, either in time or seconded in staff or helping draft strategies. So there are lots of elements that could form the foundation of a technical assistance.
Of course.
Collaborative bid.
I think overall, it is a very positive thing that 50% of the resources are being made available for local partners.
Yeah.
And it's a case of now, let's flush that through, let's make it work.
Yeah, excellent. What's not on the agenda? What do you think they've missed out?
I think there's some important areas which the different partners around the table at the committee on the 19th will be looking at, not just universities, but one is the eligibility criteria, which we understand were with ministers a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And of course, when we're drafting responses for the outline calls, we need to know what the rules are.
Yeah.
So I think some of the partners may be asking questions about when do we get to see the agreed eligibility criteria. An important element, particularly for universities, of course, for some universities, the issue of the indirect costs need to be dealt with within there. We haven't yet seen the proposals on how activities across LEP areas will be constructed and what the process will be for those. And for many universities, that's an important new flexibility in the new programme. I think we haven't seen any real progress on establishing the national subcommittees on which many universities would wish to serve.
Yep.
So I think those are areas of further work. It's not a criticism of the government departments. There's an enormous workload here.
Yeah, there is.
We can understand the need to get the programme launched in principle, but there are important documents which need to come out in the very near future.
Yeah.
And I think what the government departments are trying to do here is to use the launch and the calls process to trigger the release of the important details which will follow hopefully shortly thereafter.
Yeah, excellent. But to get the ball rolling, get proposals in, is the most important part.
Yeah, and I think in summary what this meeting of this committee is trying to do is to kick the ball into play, albeit not all of the players are on the pitch yet.
No. Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Kevin.
Okay.
And we'll do a report on the outcomes of the Growth Programme Board and post it on the YouTube channel.
Okay, that'll be really useful.
Yeah, thanks.